Hey, welcome to the Chronological Bible Journey, where we discover God's whole story one day at a time. My name is Noah, and I'm here today with Michael. We're going to be your guides today as we discuss Exodus chapter 13 through 15. Michael, it's day 36 of our journey. Let's go.
All right. Hey, this is a big day because the Israelites are leaving Egypt. Now, back in the patriarch era, so Genesis 15, God told Abraham that his descendants would live as foreigners and be oppressed in a foreign land for 400 years. But that God would, judge them, and they would come out having plundered the nation that had oppressed them. Well, today, that promise is coming true right here in our reading. When God makes a promise, he's faithful to keep it.
And that promise seemed so ridiculous at the time. Like, we're going to be slaves and we're going to leave rich and with all of their stuff. Like how could that possibly happen?
Yeah, how does that even work? Well, it is working right here. And so this trip between Egypt and Canaan, everybody's leaving. They got to be excited, right? And they're heading to the promised land. It's really only about 250-ish miles on the most direct route.
I saw one time where somebody did a Google map between the two locations. It said like a 6-day walk.
Yeah, should not take a horrible long time. Right? But that would have taken them into the land of the Philistines. And God knew that they would probably face a battle there, or multiple battles, and that his people, more than likely, would freak out and say, we can't do this, or we're running back to Egypt. So he took them on a more circular route, a scenic route, if you will, and they went instead at his direction down to the Red Sea. But once Pharaoh heard where they were, he was like, what am I doing? Let's go get our slaves back, because we have just thrown away the best free labor workforce that we could have had.
Incredible resource.
Yeah. And so they went to capture the Israelites. And when the Israelites turned, they're just camping out on the shore. They turn around. Here comes Pharaoh and his army, and they are trapped.
Yep.
They have nowhere to go. So, Noah, read for us real quick, Exodus 14, verses 10 through 12.
As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and they panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord and they said to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you that this would happen while we were still in Egypt? We said, 'Leave us alone. Let us be slaves in Egypt.' It's better to be a slave in Egypt than to be a corpse in the wilderness."
Well, look at here. God knew what he was talking about. Did you, just while you were reading that, I noticed how many times did they say the word Egypt?
Yeah.
Where were they focusing on
Egypt.
really quickly?
Yeah.
Let us go back to Egypt,
Yeah.
right? God knew this was going to happen. And why, though, would he bring them to this spot where they couldn't run? They couldn't hide. They had no choice but to trust him.
It's exactly where he wanted them.
Exactly. And so what does God end up doing? He ends up parting the waters, and they escape through a path that they didn't see when they first got there, right? Now, I love Psalm 77, verse 19. This is from the Kingdom era, and this is where Asaph is writing about God's rescue at the Red Sea. And this is what he says. He says, "Your road led through the sea, your pathway through the mighty waters, a pathway no one knew was there." No one knew that path was there.
God did.
Yeah, but God did. And so we see that what God was seeking to accomplish was that he was going to put his people in a specific situation where they would see his power, and it would build into their character and make them trust him and have more faith. That's why he led them there. And this verse in Psalm 77:19, that is a special verse to me. Over these last 3 years, our family, we walked through a very difficult point. And several years ago, I used to be on Bellevue staff in a different way, but I left because our family was experiencing something incredibly difficult large in part with our son, who is on the severe end of the autism spectrum. And so I had to retreat from working to give my son and family the support that they needed. But in the course of those next 3 years, things got harder and harder. Now, a lot of people don't know about severe autism, but when someone cannot process the world around them, they can't communicate with people, they can't understand what's going on, that can lead to aggression, that can lead to property damage, that can lead to agitation, hurting themselves, hurting other people, all those types of things. And so one of the promises God gave us when we made that decision was Psalm 77:19. I'm going to give you a pathway that no one knew was there. But as we walked through that journey with our family, things kept getting harder and harder and harder. And Noah, we got to the point in mid-2013, it was the lowest of the low. Everything that had been hard when I stepped away from my job was 10 times harder now. And we had to face real questions of, were we going to lose everything? How are we going to provide? What are we going to do? All these types of things. And I looked at the Lord and I said, God, what about your promises?
You said, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, where are they? Where are you? And he replied back to me, do you still believe my promises? And I was faced, do I trust or do I run away? And from that moment, nothing changed immediately. That would have been really nice. But then over the course of the next 10, 12 months, we began to see progress in our son that we had never seen before. And today we are now seeing he is more filled with joy and peace, more so than he's ever been in his entire life. But we got to the point, and we followed all the Lord's directions to the best that we could understand. But he led us to a very hard spot. Do you still believe my promises? He created a pathway that no one knew was there. Our therapist has told us that she has never seen someone in such a short period of time, year and a half, mind you, it's still long, make the amount of progress that he has made.
Wow.
And that is because the Lord has intervened and he has honored his promises. He has built a foundation of faith in us, and he has proven his power to the world. That's why this passage is so important, because he still does it today. This is not just real in the Bible, it is real today. So if you are like the Israelites, or you're like me and you're facing a difficult situation, I want you to ask the question, do I still believe God's promises? Because when you say yes, that will impact the decisions you make and help you move and wait for the Lord to do amazing things. And it will take your focus off the impossibleness of the situation and put it more on the incredibleness of our Lord.
I love what Moses says to the people as they're panicking. The Egyptians that you see today, you will never see again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. And Michael, even the fact that you're sitting on this podcast and you're on staff at the church now and you're writing curriculum for our life groups as we're going through the Chronological Bible is one of those pathways through the sea that you didn't know was there, nobody else knew was there, but God saw it.
That is all a direct result of the Lord moving and providing and showing us a new path.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that today. And thank you for joining us on today's episode for the Chronological Bible Journey. We encourage you to continue in your reading. We've got some incredible things coming up as God's people leave Egypt and enter into the promised land here. Just not very much time coming in the next few days. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.